Hey Zonies, we're here checking out on an old-time friend of mine who's going to give us a little inside view on theater. Let's go check it out.
Well,
Hey,
what are
Kelli.
you doing? Hello!
How are you?
Nice to see you! What are you up to these days?
Well, we thought about giving you a little interview and talking about some of your performances, but you know what? I saw you were playing the piano. Let's do a little thing of what we used to.
You got it, buddy.
Awesome. If someone in the movie show yelled fire in the second row, this whole place is a powder keg. You'd notice him, Cellophane, Mr. Cellophane should have been my name, Mr. Cellophane, 'cause you can look right through me, walk right by me, and never know I'm there. Hey Zonies, we are sitting here with one of my better friends, associates, almost family at this point. We've known each other for about 11 years, and this is Kelli James. Kelli James, welcome. This
Thank
is
you, my dear.
Arizona with Steph and Matt. Steph's a little out of it today. She's on mission somewhere else, so it'll be just me and Kelli for today. So first and foremost, we know that you've been into theater for a long time, since you were about 16. What did you do prior to that? Were you in vocal lessons, acting? What did you do prior to your
I
career?
walked beans and I detasseled corn.
Okay. Well,
Do you know where I'm from, Matt?
I believe so, but my memory escapes me at the moment.
I grew up in the town of Tabor, Iowa. 750 people.
Okay.
Before I decided that I needed to escape from Iowa to pursue the profession that I had chosen,
Of course.
from the time I was about 5 years old, I really knew that I wanted to be a singer, actor, performer. So then I had to figure out, how do I get out of here?
Right.
But there are not a lot of things to do in a small town in Iowa.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Because we had no theaters, we had no youth theaters, we had no vocal teachers, we had no acting teachers, we had none of that. To make money, I did that. I worked in the bean field, I worked in the corn fields, I babysat, I saved my money. And I waited for the day that I would get to audition for someone that would see me and possibly do something for me. And that day happened. In the meantime, I spent a lot of time in my bedroom, in front of the mirror, listening to records, watching television, and just honing my skills.
Basically, at 16 is when your career really started to take off and you started getting involved in all of that. So just go ahead and give us a little description on from your first job at 16 to how great it was to be personally asked by Andrew Lloyd Webber to do specific shows.
Well, my first show happened when I was 15 years old, and a friend had called me because I had directed a musical at my high school, and it was Godspell. That was Stephen Schwartz, who, went on to write Wicked.
Mm-hmm.
We all know Stephen
Phenomenal
Schwartz.
show.
Now, yes. And a few other great ones, but we all know Wicked. Called me and said, there's a company in Omaha, Nebraska auditioning for a small touring company. You should go. And my mother said, oh, I don't know about that. It's Omaha, Nebraska. You would be going on tour. You're only 15 years old. But then she told my father, I'm going to take her because, reality will set in. She won't get this show. And she'll realize that it's just a cold, hard world out there. And it doesn't come easily. Well, I got into the show. So that was the first step in the right direction.
There you go.
And I met a producer that later spoke to my parents and said, I really want to make sure that Kelli has every opportunity that she can get. So he put me into the Rocky Horror Show in San Francisco.
Very nice.
After that. So that was my first really legit show, and I became an Actors Equity member and went into the union.
Okay.
Then I went home and graduated high school.
Got to get your priorities.
Exactly. And then I moved to Los Angeles. And I moved to LA because I really wanted to get into recording. But while I was there were auditions happening for the theater, and I already had a little bit of experience in the theater, so I decided to go out on an open call for a show called Evita.
Yes, Evita.
And Evita was written by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice and directed by Hal Prince. And again, it was a huge open call. I didn't have an agent at the time, so I just walked in and thought, well, I'll give it a shot. And I walked out onto the stage and I sang for Hal Prince and for Andrew Lloyd Webber, and they asked me to sing a couple of other things, and they said, "Where have you been all our lives?" And I said, "Waiting for you to notice." That was my first big show, my first big experience. That was in Los Angeles, the Schubert Theater, and the composers were Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice, and directed by Hal Prince. I know, and produced by Robert Stigwitz. So I not only had New York connections immediately, but London connections immediately too.
Right.
Just got to really work with some of the greatest composers and directors and producers of our time.
That's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
You even had the opportunity to work on Broadway. I'm correct with that?
Yes.
And also to work with Donny Osmond himself with Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Yes.
Now, with all the shows that you've done for Andrew Lloyd Webber and all the other productions that you've done, what are your most memorable experiences through all of them?
Well, I would have to say Les Miserables. Just because I was in the original Broadway company. It was fascinating to be part of a musical at the ground level.
Right.
It was amazing because things were happening at that level that you would never get to be a part of otherwise. You can do tours and you can do shows that have gone on to great success, but you never get to be part of that original process.
Right.
Of the composers actually sitting in a rehearsal and writing music for the show, or directors thinking, let's go in a different direction, or producers coming in and saying, we're going to maybe go to the Kennedy Center and do a pre-Broadway and then keep our fingers crossed and see if we can get to Broadway. That process is amazing.
Right.
To be part of that, to see that all happen. A creative team to come together like that, an original company to come together like that, and then for it to become a worldwide phenomenon.
Wow. That is definitely a spectacular experience.
I don't think anything will ever probably compete with it. There have been wonderful things. Working with Donny Osmond was great because I had his poster on my wall.
Exactly. Can't go wrong with that.
So
Getting to work with somebody.
The fact that as a young kid, 12 years old, and I had his poster on my bedroom wall, and then I got to walk onto stage with him and sing with him. Now that's fun. That's fun because, again, that's kind of a dream come true.
Yeah, that is very awesome.
When I first came here, I was just going to do teaching. I was going to do voice lessons, and I worked very hard on getting certified in a technique that I could teach that I knew would help singers because I knew what it was like. I knew what it was like to do 8 shows a week and sing a score like Andrew Lloyd Webber would write, and I knew that I could help singers. I started doing that. But then I met Bob Cooper at Valley Youth Theater, and he asked me to come co-direct. And as a matter of fact, Matt,
that was one of our first shows together.
That's when I first met you. I met the wonderful, youth stars of the Valley and got to work with all of them and then coach them as well. I got to then incorporate some of my Broadway experience and my Broadway friends because I started to do workshops here. Not only have I been able to work with local people here, but I've been able to bring some of my Broadway friends in, my friends from LA and New York, musical directors and actors and composers, and it's just become, a wonderful family that I've been able to draw on and bring all of them here to the Valley. So that's been great.
As a performer, most people don't really realize it, but you have to deal with a lot of rejection and sort of negative comments to you as either how you look or how you sound. Mm-hmm. You just might not fit what they're looking for, or they'll be flat out honest and say, I'm sorry, you're not very good.
That's right.
So with that, how do you actually prepare your students for those moments when they actually come?
Well, there's not a lot of control that we have in this business. You know that.
Yeah.
The only thing that you can do is just get really honed and figure out who you are and make sure that every time you're seen, you're being honest and you're presenting them the truth. And with that, hopefully you have the confidence to know who you are, and you're selecting the kinds of auditions that you need to go out on that you know you're right for, because a lot of actors will just go out on everything, and you're just not going to be right for everything. We know that. I mean, rejection is such a huge thing in this business.
Yeah.
And you just have to keep at it, and you have to never give up. And most of all, I think at the bottom of everything is that you have to have a tremendous belief in yourself, and a tremendous drive, and a tremendous passion for this business. If you don't have those in place, forget it.
What actually made you want to start this studio in the first place?
I come from a family of educators, but I
Okay.
swore I would never teach.
How'd that work out for you?
Well, you know what they say about teaching. But I do come from a long line of incredible teachers and educators. So I think it's just in me. I think it's just in my blood. I was contacted by my family, who had been here in Phoenix since 1986, in Scottsdale, and had built a wonderful dance studio. And they were looking to expand into starting to teach the performing arts. Now, that had really not been done here. There were dance studios, and maybe there were maybe you could go find a vocal coach somewhere.
Far and few between.
But I don't think many. So, and then there was never anyone to teach you anything about Broadway. Putting the voice and the dancing and the acting and everything together in a performing arts situation. So she said, you should try that. You should come out and try that and see how it flies. And I thought, okay, I'll try it. We'll see. I came out, did a few classes, and absolutely fell in love with it. Fell in love with it because it felt so right to take everything at that point, the 30-some years that I experienced that I had, and pass it on. I was giving the tools to the kids that were then going to go on and do it after me.
Right.
So that felt great. It just felt so good, and it was so rewarding, and I thought, I love this. So I started the Broadway Advantage studio and thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pass the torch. It just feels right.
Very good. And I will say, for the fact that you do have all these accolades, all the experience, you are one of the very few teachers that not only can do what you teach, but is still doing what you're teaching.
Right.
So it's high quality instruction at its best right here.
Oh, thanks, Matt.
And so
it's the real world. It's
Exactly.
It's the real world of the arts, is what I say.
Yeah.
Because if they need to know what happens after they're here in the studio, I could tell them that.
Mm-hmm.
And not only locally, but then if they go to New York, or they go to LA, or they go to London, or they go to Chicago, or Toronto, or many places that I've worked, I know what goes on out there.
Exactly.
And that, I realized, was probably something that was very valuable
Definitely.
in the teaching. Not just scales, la 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 la, but so much more.
Right. Like preparing them for an audition that they're coming up for Broadway or for
Exactly.
other productions.
Exactly.
So with the auditions, what do you think is actually the hardest part of an audition?
The nerves, getting over the nerves. Making sure that you're centered and you know where you're coming from, and just letting everything kind of fall away and knowing what your goal is. Your material, and you as the vehicle for your material. And that's what needs to happen. Nothing else. Nothing else needs to be going around in your head. No distractions. You don't need to be thinking about what so-and-so looks like, or what so-and-so said, or the last show that that person did that you're singing across the room. None of that. It all has to go away, and it has to get down to exactly one goal. What do I have to do to get this job? I'm just a firm believer in talent.
Okay.
I believe in talent, and who's to say what talent truly is?
Very
You
true.
have to know your talent, and you have to show them what that is.
Well, if you had a song that would sum up your life to now, what would that song be?
Interestingly enough, I just got to sing it recently into production here in Phoenix.
Oh, really?
I finally got to do that Stephen Sondheim show that I didn't get
There
when I
you
went
go.
out on that audition. It was my first Stephen Sondheim show, and it was called Follies. And
Okay.
I got to sing a song called "I'm Still Here."
Very
Because
nice.
it's a song in tribute to the survivor of show business. And I've been in show business for 40 years this year. And so that song took you through decades and decades of an actress's experience in the theater and television, in film, and everything that she saw in life happen around her, and everything that she was involved in. So when I sang that song, there were aspects of that song that were so right for me, because I've had so much experience in this business and I've seen so much, and I'm still here.
There you are.
And here I am. If I was going to say a song about my teaching career, which was much shorter than only 13 years, I would say "Children Will Listen."
That would be another good song. Very good. Well, I really enjoyed our conversation that we had here tonight.
Thanks, Matt.
Is there any information that you would have for people to check you out online, maybe, or be able to see what you actually have done?
You can. I've got a page on Facebook. I also have a website. Just go to www.thebroadwayadvantage.org, and I'm there. And talk to actors in town. Talk to students. They will tell you everything that they need to know about me, because I'm an open book.
Perfect. That's what we like to hear. So thank you so much for joining us, Zonies. You heard it. From experience of 40 years in the business, don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on dreams. Believe in yourself, and you can get as far as you need to. So be sure to click back, and we'll check with you next time.
Plush velvet sometimes just pretzels and beer. But I'm here. I've stuffed the dailies in my shoes, strummed ukuleles, sung the blues, seen all my dreams disappear. But I'm here. I've slept in shanties, guest of the WPA. But I'm here. Danced in my scanties, $3 a night was the pay. But I'm here.